This is the introduction to section 12.3, part 1, and we're going to talk about inscribed angles, and no longer right now in this section are we going to talk about central angles. So these are going to be some things that are different. A couple things here as we look at our objectives. We're going to find the measure of an inscribed angle. We first of all got to figure out what an inscribed angle is, and then we're going to find the measure of an angle formed by a tangent and a chord. In this case, we're going to be looking more along the lines of finding the measure of inscribed angles. So what is an inscribed angle? Well, an angle whose vertex is on the circle and whose sides are chords of a circle is an inscribed angle. Now, as you look at this picture here, the inscribed angle is in red. You'll notice here's the vertex right here. This is the vertex of the angle. The sides of the angle, BC and AC, these are chords. Okay, so this is what we call an inscribed angle. You'll notice this one doesn't have to necessarily go through the center. Okay, so an inscribed angle is not going to necessarily go through the center. The intercepted arc, or the arc that's created by the angle, in this case is arc AB. This is what we call the intercepted arc. It's the arc that's created by the sides of the angle. Okay, so these are two vocabulary terms that are going to be very important to know and understand. Okay, the inscribed angle theorem. It says the measure of an inscribed angle is half the measure of its intercepted arc. So in this case, angle B, angle B, which is right here, angle B is half the measure of arc AC. So for example, let's say quickly that arc AC was 90 degrees. I know the angle is half of that arc, so the angle would be 45. If I told you the angle was 45 degrees, then I know that the intercepted arc would be 90, because it would be double that. Okay, so let's take a look here at some examples of some things you're going to learn, or some things you're going to use, and some examples you're going to do as we start here. Now you'll notice this one here is kind of tricky already to start. They're not going to necessarily just give you one. What are the values of A and B? Well, first of all, the very first thing that you want to do here is figure out how much the arc, or how long the arc is. So in this case, you're looking at arc A, or in this case, A degrees. That's arc PT. That's what we want to know, is arc PT. Well, what creates arc PT? If you follow the point P down to the angle and point T down to the angle, you'll notice that when I follow those through here, that this is angle Q. Well, angle Q is 60 degrees, and if the angle is 60 degrees, then the arc is what we call double that. So in this case, the arc PT, or A degrees, A, is going to be 120 degrees, or 60 times 2. Okay? All right, now, as we look at letter B, all right, letter B. Letter B is an angle measure. So again, I'm going to follow the angle. I'm going to use the chords here of this angle. As I follow this angle, it goes right there, and then angle B goes up to here. So we're essentially going from P to S. Well, I know that A is, in this case, we found A to be 120 degrees, so we can put that in there. So from P to S, in this case, this is the arc by the angle that's created. Okay, from arc PS is equal to 150 degrees. I added the two arcs together. So if the arc is 150, how do I find the angle? Well, I take the arc, I divide it by 2. So in this case, angle B is equal to 75 degrees. Again, the angle is equal to half the arc, or in this case, the arc is equal to 2 times the angle. Those are the two important things to remember. Okay, so let's go over here to this second one. In circle O, what is the measure of angle A? So I want to know what's the measure of this angle right here. Well, if I follow the angle again to its arc, so I can figure out the arc, there's the one side of the angle, here's the other side of the angle, and if I follow the arc goes around all the way like so, and you'll notice the arc is a semicircle, so essentially the arc here is 180 degrees. Well, if the arc is 180 degrees, to find the angle, okay, I'm going to take the angle equals 1/2 the arc. The angle is equal to 1/2. The arc is 180 degrees. So the angle is 90 degrees in this case. Okay. Okay, as we look at this here in this last example, what are the measures of angle A, B, C, and D? And you'll notice that they have all the arcs already measured for us here. So as we look at these, what I want to write down here, what are the angles? Angle A, what's the arc that goes with angle A? Angle B, angle C, and angle D. What are the arc measures that go with those angles? Because when we can figure that out, we know that if I figure out the arc number, I divide that in half, it's going to give me the angle. Okay, so arc or angle A, as you look here, angle A is created. Right here's angle A. And if I follow the sides of the angle right here, it's going to be this entire arc, which you'll notice is 190 degrees. If I add the 100 with the 90, okay? So I know that angle A, the arc that goes with angle A is 190. Now, let's go to angle B. Angle B is right here. So as I follow B, again, this is the arc for B. I find that B is 90 and 64 together. That is 154 degrees. Okay? Now I'm going to go through and I'm going to find arc that measures up with angle C. In this case, angle C is right here, and it goes up to here, so I'm going to add these two arcs, 106 and 64, which is 170 degrees. And then the last one here is the angle D, the arc that goes with angle D, which in this case, here's angle D. Here's the arc that goes with angle D, which is going to add 100 and 106, which is going to be 206 degrees. Okay, now you'll notice, once you find the arcs, it's really easy to find the angles. You just cut them in half, divide them in half. Now, that's one of the things that we're going to look at is that I want you to figure out how much each arc is first. If you can figure out the arc, the angles are going to be easy. Okay, so the angle is going to be half the arc. Well, if I take 190 divided by 2, that gives me the angle, in this case, is 95 degrees. Angle A is 95. Angle B, again, if I take 154, divide it in half, divide it by 2, angle B is going to be 77 degrees. Angle C, if angle C is 170, if I take 170 divided by 2, that's going to give me 85 degrees. So angle C is 85 degrees. And angle D, if the arc is 206, if I take 206, divide that by 2, that's going to give me that angle D is 103 degrees. Okay? All right, so this concludes section 12.3, part 1. Don't forget to complete your WSQ.